Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, all of the fandoms that are present in my community. We are here for another unboxing video, where I get to ramble and you get to hear about nerdy, strange things that are just made up on the spot. Apparently people enjoyed it last time, so that's what I'll be doing again. We will be unboxing my biggest and most expensive model I have ever had because of tax and shipping laws when it comes to bringing things into New Zealand. Never mind. Look, point is, beautiful assistant, hand me my prize. Thank you, beautiful assistant. I shall now unbox the strange object. Give me the first question, my beautiful assistant.
Was Snape's redemption worth anything?
Snape's redemption. Okay, this one comes from my Patreon Discord community. Should I have done this with a craft knife?
I think so.
People tend to go for, when thinking about Snape, they tend to go with how he, ended up sacrificing his life for good, and he protected Harry all along, and that he had an eternal love for Lily, that outweighing the bad things that he did in the past. But the thing is, I have a problem with the idea of sacrifice being enough to cover previous sins, as if good and bad deeds can kind of be tallied up and then they balance one another out. Like, that just, philosophically, that doesn't really sit well with me. He treated Harry really, really awfully. No, because the thing is, a redemption arc only really works, especially one that culminates in them sacrificing their life, if that decision or that redemption, that supposed redemption, comes along with a character change. The thing is that Snape doesn't really change across any of the 7 books. From book 1 to book 7, he would have sacrificed his life to save Harry. That was what he was doing right from the very first book, we eventually find out of his love for Lily. But he still treated Harry awfully. Given that he would have done that the entire time, that he was essentially doing the same thing the entire time, the only real change that happened with Snape was when he switched sides from Voldemort to join the light side, per se, which happened even before the first book began. That was the only point at which there was a real character change for Snape, which means that none of his redeeming actions were ever motivated by a change in character. He never regretted, as far as we know, how he treated Harry or Neville, whom he terrorized, by the way, to the point of it being his boggart. Oh no, it's polystyrene. I hate polystyrene. My girlfriend is grinning at me right now because she knows how much I absolutely hate the feeling of it.
This one's from Fargoth. Why did Harry break the rules so often in his first year at Hogwarts, considering how much of an improvement Hogwarts was over his old life? Okay,
so I actually have an interesting theory about this, and I think it's to do with punishment, because Harry, obviously, living with the Dursleys, gets abused and everything, but then he comes to Hogwarts, and he starts breaking the rules, or he breaks the rules by accident, and he's like, oh my gosh, I get stuck in a room, I do something wrong, and all I have to do is be stuck in a room, and it's a big room, it's not even a closet. What? I don't even get yelled at, I don't even get abused. So he's like, this is a very small price to pay for breaking the rules. He's actually got a hell of a lot more freedom, and it comes out of that. And that's actually very true. Kids do tend to act out if they've been brought up in a really controlled childhood, and then they've got freedom.
Why did my wife leave me?
What? What? I'm not sure that I'm qualified to answer that question. I'm sorry, Danielle. All the best. Next question.
Was Draco underutilized in your opinion?
Oh, now this is 2 sides down. Draco is one of those characters that you would really expect to have a redemption arc, with the relationship that he shares with Harry. And in the Deathly Hallows, there are some redemptive moments. When he's in the Room of Requirement, he tries to stop Crabbe killing Harry, And obviously he leaves the battle at the end, the Battle of Hogwarts. But at the same time, he did hold Harry at wand point, so it's not like he had this full 360-degree turn. I'm of the opinion that she could have done with more with him, and what he would need to have kind of a full redemptive arc is something called a moment of turning strength, which is kind of a decisive moment where they take an action that they couldn't have taken before. You know, oh, that's awful. You know, Zuko, for example, one of the best redemption arcs in ever, his moment of turning strength was when he faced down Fire Lord Ozai in The Day of Black Sun Part 2. And he, you know, deliberately chooses to go for the good side. Now, that's not to say that I think he should have gone to the good side. I think that, you know, it was kind of a nice nuance that he couldn't quite do that. Like, he did have a redemptive arc in a way. He turned away, but it wasn't the full complete arc. He would have needed a moment of turning moment of strength where he, say, prevented someone from being killed, or he helped his family leave the battle. Because in the books, I don't think he really motivated that. That would have given him the full arc that she could have done. But that doesn't mean it was better. Rowling probably had very good decisions for that.
This one's from Writer's Block.
Yeah.
What's the point of Dobby?
To die. Dobby is a lot of things, but he fulfills a particular role in the narrative. One that Hedwig also arguably fulfills, or does better. And that is the kill the cutie trope. That's where the author kills the character who is the most innocent, most loving, most good in the story. And it signals to the reader that no one is safe anymore, and that, you know, even the best things in the world are going to die. Colin Creevey also might possibly fulfill this, but Hedwig especially did, and she talked about how Hedwig's death actually was about the death of Harry's innocence, that was sort of what it represented. And Dobby fulfills a sort of more kind of personified, anthropomorphized version of that, where he dies, because he is kind of that cute, little, very physically little as well.
I'm absolutely fascinated by wand lore. What gives cores different qualities? Why do they react differently to different wizards?
That is some deep lore stuff that I'd have to do a lot more research into to give you a fully in-depth answer. But to the wand woods, I know you asked about cores, but the wand woods, they have a lot to do with Celtic woods, what they meant, what their supposed magical properties were in old kind of Celtic myths and druidry. That sort of stuff. She drew a lot on that. As for the cores themselves, take the phoenix feather, for example. They take on the attributes of the animal that they're taken from. So there's like dragon heartstring, unicorn hair, and phoenix feather. The phoenix feather, for example, as far as I remember, is really picky with its users, like Harry and Voldemort, because the phoenix itself is really picky. It doesn't like humans. It doesn't spend time around humans very much. Alright, you have waited long enough. Oh, look at that.
Show us the other half!
The other...
How does the currency work in Harry Potter?
Badly. The currency works badly. Apparently inflation isn't really a thing, and there's like 29 nuts to a silver sickle, and then 493 of them to a galleon, which is just a terrible, terrible scaling of currency. And then there's issues like there is with the penny in the US, which is that they're so worthless that no one should be really able to use them. So this is the fancy base.
I like the base. I like the buttery biscuit base.
And it's got like little fancy intricate designs around the edges. That's really nice. And then at the front just says Hogwarts. Yes, this is a huge Hogwarts model. Oh, it's amazing, and the detail's incredible.
Why do you think Harry Potter is the phenomenon that it is? Why is it so well loved, and how did it capture the attention of millions of readers?
That's a really, really good question. Harry Potter, this is just my opinion. I'm not super learned or publisher on this sort of thing. But Harry Potter did what a lot of books did, and it was the right book at the right time. It tapped into a whole lot of tropes of kind of old boarding school stories. So that's like, the teachers you love, the teachers you hate. Generally there's a mystery involved where they explore the grounds, or like there's old hidden rooms in the ancient buildings. That's all very in the genre of the boarding school beforehand. It just never been a magical boarding school. On top of that, J.K. Rowling was really tapping into the young protagonist, which was very new at that point, even in fantasy and sci-fi, which tended to break ground with this sort of thing. Young protagonists weren't very common. There's Ursula Gwyn's the Wizard of Earthsea, but they weren't common, and she really, really narrowed in on that and created a really relatable protagonist. She was, in one sense, kind of a first of her kind, and firsts always do better, which is why you can see so much of her kind of magical school being emulated in stories that have come after in the decades after that.
What's your Patronus?
My Patronus is a heron, which I know sounds kind of lame, but I justify it on the grounds that it's also J.K. Rowling's, so I will take that. So here we have the owlery, and obviously there's the main buildings, and you've got the way down to the boat shed, which is where Snape was killed in the films. We've got the courtyard. An interesting story about this bridge here. It was added later on, and that's why there's actually a few inconsistencies between what Hogwarts looks like in the first couple of movies and what it looks like in the later movies.
What's your favourite bit of lore or trivia from the series?
It's not even really a piece of trivia, but it is something that I figured out a while ago that I think is really, really cool. So, Voldemort's ultimate aim was to live forever. That's why he created the Horcruxes. That's why in the the book he drank the unicorn blood, and he died in the 7th book. Spoilers, at the age of about 70. In fact, it was either 70 or 71, but let's say 70. And this is the funny thing. This is the curious thing. He wanted to live forever. He wanted to be immortal. He wanted to be far more than the average man. But when the Deathly Hallows was released, the book in which he dies, 2007, when it was released, take a guess at what the age of the average life expectancy of a human was worldwide. 70 years old. For all Voldemort wanted to live forever, he died exactly as the average human would in that year. In the books, it actually takes place in 1997, the Battle of Hogwarts, I think, but the book came out in 2007. I thought that little bit of trivia was kind of cool to know. The detail is just really, really nice.
This is meant to be Hagrid's hut. I didn't realise.
Then we got the clock tower. It's funny because I can remember, scenes from the films where like Buckbeak's taking off there. It's really cool. All right, next question.
How much Harry Potter merchandise do you own?
Okay, so I own a bunch of random things. I've got like this little Deathly Hallows necklace, and I have a whole bunch of other cheap ones of the different wizards. But the one piece of Harry Potter merchandise that I really want to show you, apart from my beautiful new model, is
Avada Kedavra!
my own personal wand. It was made by an Etsy person, because they don't really make custom wands, but this Etsy person makes custom wands when you can choose the different wood type, the different core, the different length, and so on. And this is done to my specifications. My specifications being, and you get a really cool like little thing, which is that it's 10 3/4 inches. Don't leave comments down below. Cypress wood. It's strong yet surprisingly swishy, and it has a unicorn hair core. And cypress wood is cool because I think it's Remus Lupin's, and supposedly people who have cypress wood are going to die a noble death. I think my girlfriend's very happy I'm going to die a noble death. Apparently I die young as well. So are you happy about? She's nodding that she's happy that I'm going to die young. All right.
Who's your favourite character or characters?
I really like the story between Grindelwald and Aberforth and Dumbledore. I think that was really well done. I don't like Johnny Depp, so book Grindelwald. We don't really know much about him. I know he's a really obscure, kind of not well-known character, but I really liked the role that he played in the story and giving us kind of context to Dumbledore's life. Yeah.
The detail on, like, the hall is just really nice.
I really wish I could go there.
If you could become an animagus, what would you be?
I would probably be a cat. Wouldn't I, Mishy? Hey, Mishy. I would be like you, because cats can go anywhere and no one cares, and they're amazing.
What is exemplary about the first chapter of Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone?
You either asked a really coincidental question, or you're attentive enough to know that I have mentioned once or twice before that the first couple of chapters of Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone is really well written. It's really complex, and it deserves, a whole video in and of its own. But essentially, Rowling manages to introduce every single major concept and every single major character, most of them, within the first couple of chapters that build up the story without an exposition dump. She does it in really creative ways that feels natural and interesting. We understand that wizards are quirky, and we understand there is a magical world that's hidden, and we understand that James and Lily are important, and we don't quite know why. We know that Voldemort's out there. We know sort of what he wanted to do. We know about Harry's backstory and the importance of that. She introduces most major concepts really well and really naturally.
What kind of character was Albus Dumbledore? Did he make more mistakes? And are the good things he's done good enough to cover up the bad ones?
As I mentioned before, I don't like the whole kind of good enough deeds later on cover up what you did in the past. Rowling did something really interesting in that she subverted the typical mentor guider character who is perfect and doesn't really have a character arc. Learning about how he is flawed and he was power hungry with Grindelwald. Like, he was kind of evil. He could have done a lot of dark things. I mean, he wasn't evil, but he could have done a lot of dark things. It's left to implication and to speculation, really. I think that was a really interesting thing for them to do.
How to kill a toddler and take over a school.
Yes. It's a classic novel. One that Voldemort should have really read.
Also, where's your cat?
Mishy is very, very clearly seeable. Our Supreme Leader is disappointed in you. I don't want to disturb him. I just want to leave him there. All hail Mishka! You okay? He's got beanie fingers.
Who made spells?
People just make them. I don't think anyone regulates who makes spells. I'm pretty sure there's a story with Luna Lovegood's mother, who she died trying to make one of her own spells. Now, that might not be uniform. There might be kind of like a college of people that do it out there. But as far as I'm aware, people just sort of make them as they go, and they sort of develop culturally and spread socially.
Is it a Hogwarts model?
Yes. Yes. 10 points to you, my friend. You are correct. It is a Hogwarts model. That's true genius. True powers of deduction.
Who would win a fight? Ron Weasley or Soccer?
Depends if they have time to plan. Because Soccer wasn't really a soldier by himself. He was more of the plans guy. And whether Ron could probably hold his own more. That being said, Soccer was, of course, an adept swordsman. He learned in Soccer's master, and he had his own sword and everything. But Ron is probably less likely to kill Soccer than Soccer would be willing to kill Ron if it came down to it. We see that Soccer sort of has those utilitarian tendencies.
There! That's how it's done.
What happened to the Cloak of Invisibility?
So we sort of learn about the fate of each of the Deathly Hallows in the final book. And if I remember rightly, there's a line, a short little part about Harry's invisibility cloak, about how that might be the Deathly Hallow invisibility cloak because it lasts longer, as in most invisibility cloaks are just meant to last 5 years or something. But his has last for decades. It was his father's. And that was actually a really cool little detail that she included, because you don't really think that it might have, it should have faded.
Would Cho or Luna have been better lovers than Ginny?
Should you clarify what type of lover you're meaning? I have no idea. Just depends on your preferences, I suppose. But that is all from me. I hope you enjoyed this unboxing video. Just something a bit more rambly. People seemed to enjoy it last time. Question of the day: what is your favorite model or collectible that you currently own? So mine, for example, is right now it's this Hogwarts model, but it's also possibly my Legend of Korra model, because I just love that so damn much, and I was wanting that for a long time. Let me know yours down in the comments below. Otherwise, feel free to come support me over on Patreon, or follow me on my social media, Twitter. Email me stuff that you made in the address and links in the description below. Of course, always remember to all hail Mishka. I hope you enjoyed this, and that you had some Harry Potter questions answered that you were interested in. Stay nerdy, Sub-Furies, and I'll see you in the future.